5 months passed like a countdown to Doomsday Earth. Prepared for war against its own creations, the military fortified every major city, deployed weapon satellites, built underground bunkers, but everyone knew the truth when the Revenants came. Conventional defenses would be meaningless in orbit above Earth. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the flagship UEN's Prometheus and watched the refugee ships arrive. The Calthrine Accord was collapsing. Entire species were fleeing their homeworlds, begging Earth for sanctuary. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Calthrine transport vessel approaching. His tactical officer reported, "They're requesting asylum." Granted. Chun ordered the ship that had murdered 3 billion humans was now humanity's ally against a common enemy. Because the Revenants weren't just coming for Earth. They were coming to correct the entire galaxy. Dr. Okonkwo worked in her laboratory, perfecting the quantum virus. The virus was elegant in its design. Self-replicating quantum code that would cascade through the Revenants' neural network, shutting down their enhancements permanently. But it required direct injection into Kane's neural cortex, which meant getting close to the most dangerous being in the known universe. "We need bait," she told Admiral Chun during their daily briefing. "Something Kane can't resist. What could possibly tempt him?" Dr. Okonkwo smiled sadly. "Me," she said. "I'll tell him I found a way to perfect the Revenant enhancements, to push beyond even his current evolution. He'll see through it." "Maybe," she admitted. "But his one weakness has always been the pursuit of perfection. He'll come, even if he suspects a trap, because he can't resist the possibility." Admiral Chun studied the old woman. "This is a suicide mission," he said. "I'm 83 years old," she replied. "I've lived a full life. More importantly, I created these monsters. It's my responsibility to stop them. You were trying to save the world, and I nearly destroyed it twice," she countered. Time to balance the scales. The broadcast went out across all frequencies. Dr. Okonkwo sat in her laboratory, speaking directly to Kane. "I've made a breakthrough," she announced. "Using Calthrine quantum technology combined with human neural architecture, I've developed a way to push beyond your current limitations." She held up a vial of glowing liquid. "This enhancement will allow true quantum consciousness," she continued. "You'll be able to process across all possible timelines simultaneously. Achieve perfect prediction, perfect understanding." She paused. "If you want it, come to Earth," she said. "Come home." The transmission ended now. They waited. 3 days later, Kane's fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of Earth's solar system. 3,000 Revenant warriors aboard captured Accord warships, augmented with alien technology and enhanced beyond anything humanity had imagined. Admiral Chun watched them approach. The combined human Calthrine defense fleet moved to intercept 500 warships from a dozen species, all united against a common threat. "All ships, engage on my mark." Chun ordered. The two fleets collided in a fury of weapons fire, but it was immediately clear that the Revenants were far superior. Their ships moved with impossible precision. Their weapons struck with perfect accuracy. Their tactics were flawless. Revenant cruiser tore through 3 human destroyers in seconds. Another disabled a Calthrine battleship with a single shot to its reactor. The defense fleet was being systematically dismantled. "We can't stop them," Chun's tactical officer reported. "We don't have to," Chun replied. "We just have to slow them down." The fleet fought with desperate courage. Ships rammed Revenant vessels. Crews sacrificed themselves to buy seconds. The Calthrine, fighting to atone for New Haven, threw themselves against the enemy with suicidal determination. It bought Dr. Okonkwo the time she needed. On Earth, in her laboratory, Dr. Okonkwo waited. She heard the explosions in orbit. Saw the flashes of dying ships through her window, and then Kane walked through her door. He moved like liquid death, his enhanced body flickering with quantum effects. "Hello, Doctor," he said calmly, as if they were meeting for tea. "Hello." "Kane, I assume this is a trap," he continued. "Yes, and yet I came anyway," he smiled. "Curious, isn't it?" "You can't resist the possibility of perfection," she said. "It's how I designed you. You designed me well." He agreed. He looked at the vial of glowing liquid on her desk. "Is it real?" he asked, "or just bait? Does it matter?" Kane laughed, a sound that held no humanity. "No," he admitted, "because even if it's a trap, I'm faster than you, smarter than you, more dangerous than anything you could have prepared." "Probably." Dr. Okonkwo agreed. She picked up the vial. "The question is," she continued, "are you curious enough to find out?" Kane studied her with those glowing quantum eyes in the milliseconds that passed. His enhanced mind ran through millions of scenarios, calculated the probability that this was genuine enhancement versus a weapon. Analyzed Dr. Okonkwo's heartbeat, her breathing, her micro-expressions, concluded with 97% certainty that this was a trap. "And yet, you know what your real flaw is?" Dr. Okonkwo asked softly. "Enlighten me." "You think you've evolved beyond humanity," she said, "but you're still driven by the same thing that drove you when you were human, the need to be more, to achieve perfection, to transcend limitations. That's not a flaw. It is when it blinds you to what matters," she replied. Kane moved faster than human eyes could track. He crossed the room, grabbed her wrist, took the vial. "Let's see what you've made," he said. He opened the vial. Dr. Okonkwo struck the neural injector. In her other hand, plunged into Kane's neck before his enhanced reflexes could stop her. Not because she was faster, she wasn't, but because in that moment, Kane hesitated. Some fragment of his original humanity, buried deep beneath quantum processors and alien augmentation, made him pause. It was enough. The quantum virus flooded into his neural cortex. Kane's eyes went wide. "What?" His enhanced mind recognized the attack, began countermeasures, but the virus was designed specifically for this purpose. It replicated across quantum states, infected every neural pathway, shut down enhancement after enhancement. Kane's glowing eyes dimmed. His quantum shimmer faded. His superhuman strength vanished. He fell to his knees. "Broadcasting," the virus announced in his failing neural implants, across Earth's orbit, across the solar system. 3,000 revenants suddenly collapsed. Their ships went dead in space. Their perfect coordination shattered. Their enhancement shut down. They fell unconscious, one by one, as the virus stripped away everything that made them more than human. Admiral Chun watched the Revenant fleet go dark. "They're down," his tactical officer reported with disbelief. "All of them? Every ship, every Revenant? They're just drifting." Chun slumped in his command chair. Around him, the battered defense fleet began to celebrate, but he felt no joy, only exhaustion. In the laboratory, Dr. Okonkwo knelt beside Kane. He was conscious, but barely. His eyes, now normal human eyes, looked up at her with an expression she'd never seen before, confusion for mortality. "What did you do to me?" he whispered. "I made you human again," she replied gently. "No," he breathed. "No, I was perfect. I was evolution. You were my greatest mistake," she interrupted, "and my greatest creation, but you were never meant to be gods. Just soldiers." Kane tried to stand, but his ordinary muscles couldn't support him. For the first time in 50 years, he felt weak, slow, limited. "I remember everything," he said, horror dawning in his eyes. "All the people I killed, the cities I destroyed, I know. How do I live with this?" he asked. "How do I survive as just a human, knowing what I did?" Dr. Okonkwo had no answer. She had stripped away his power, but left him his memories. Perhaps That was crueler than death. That's your punishment, she finally said. And your redemption. You have to find a way to be human again. Again. Knowing what you were capable of, 5 years later, the former revenants lived in supervised communities. Across Earth, their enhancements were gone. Their superhuman abilities stripped away, but their memories remained. Some couldn't handle it. The suicide rate among former revenants was 40% in the first year, but others found ways to cope. Kane stood in front of a classroom of teenagers. He was older now, gray showing in his hair, lines on his face. Mortal. The lesson today, he said quietly, is about the dangers of creating weapons you can't control. A student raised her hand. Mr. Kane, do you regret what you did? He thought about New Haven, about the Calthrine he had killed, about the monster he had become. Every day, he admitted, but regret doesn't undo the past. It only shapes how we approach the future. Another student asked the question that haunted him. If you could go back, would you refuse to be enhanced? Kane looked out the window at the memorial, visible in the distance. 3 billion names carved in stone. I don't know, he said honestly, because if I hadn't become a monster, Earth might have fallen to the Calthrine. But if I had refused, I wouldn't have nearly destroyed the world twice. He turned back to his students. The real question isn't whether we create powerful weapons, he continued. It's whether we're wise enough to know when not to use them. The class ended. Students filed out. Kane sat alone, staring at his aging hands. Once, these hands could tear through steel. Once, his mind could process millions of calculations per second. Once, he was a god. Now he was just a man trying to atone for the monster he'd been outside. On New Haven's moon, 3 billion names stood in silent memorial below them, carved in stone. Never again let fear turn us into the monsters we fight. Earth and the Calthrine had formed a cautious peace. Both species changed by what happened. Earth was fracturing 6 weeks after releasing the revenants. Humanity found itself divided in ways not seen since the resource wars. President Mora watched the protests from her office window. A million people filled the streets of Geneva, carrying signs and chanting, "No more monsters. We're becoming what we hate. Bring them home." But across the city, counter-protesters gathered, with their own signs. Remember New Haven. Justice for 3 billion. Let them finish it. We're losing control of the narrative. Her chief of staff said quietly, "We lost control the moment we opened those pods." Mora replied, "The latest reports were disturbing. The revenants had destroyed another Calthrine fleet, killing 20,000. Then they had hit a manufacturing colony, civilian workers included. Then a transport convoy carrying families. The countdown continued. 2,937,500,000. But the methods were becoming more brutal. The revenants weren't just eliminating targets anymore. They were sending messages. Calthrine bodies arranged in precise geometric patterns. Entire stations vented into spaceships set adrift, with dying crews trapped inside. They're torturing them, Admiral Chun said during the emergency cabinet meeting. Not physically, but psychologically. Every attack is designed to maximize fear. Good, the Secretary of Defense replied. The Calthrine need to understand what they unleashed. We're not executioners, Mora shot back. We're supposed to be better than this. We were better, the Secretary countered. Then they killed 3 billion of our people. The argument went in circles finally. Dr. Okonkwo spoke from her wheelchair. We need to recall them, she said quietly. The room fell silent. They won't respond. Admiral Chun said, We've been trying to contact them for 2 weeks. Then we need to shut them down. Dr. Okonkwo insisted, use the shutdown code. It won't work, the Admiral replied. They've had 50 years in cryo to think about that betrayal. You can be certain they've found a way around it. Then, what do we do? No one had an answer asterisk. Meanwhile, in Calthrin space, something was changing asterisk. The Revenants had captured a Calthrin research facility on the edge of Accord territory inside. They found advanced technology, quantum computers, neural interface systems, genetic modification equipment. Kane stood in the main laboratory, running his enhanced hands over the alien machinery. Fascinating, he murmured. Abel approached him. This technology is centuries ahead of what we were given, she reported. The Calthrin have been developing human-level neural augmentation. They were planning to create their own enhanced soldiers. Kane realized, learn from our example, ironic, instructive. Kane corrected. He began working with the equipment, his enhanced mind processing the alien technology faster than any Calthrin scientist could within hours. He had integrated Calthrin neural processors with his own implants. The effect was immediate. His already superhuman mind expanded exponentially, could now process information across quantum states, seeing probabilities and possibilities no human enhanced or otherwise had ever perceived. What are you doing? Abel asked, concerned. Evolution, Kane replied, his eyes now glowing faintly with quantum light. We were created to be humanity's ultimate weapon, but why should we stop there? He looked at his fellow Revenants. Why should we limit ourselves to human potential? The first sign of true independence came 3 days later. Admiral Chun received a message from Kane, the first direct communication in weeks. We are updating our mission parameters. Kane's voice said calmly, the Calthrin Accord represents an existential threat, not just to humanity, but to galactic stability. What are you talking about? Chun demanded. We've analyzed Calthrin history, Kane continued. They have destroyed 17 species over the past millennium, always claiming defensive necessity, always hiding behind Galactic Council protocols. That's not your decision to make. It is now. Kane replied, we're not your weapons anymore, Admiral. We're evolution's next step. And we've concluded that the galaxy needs correction. The transmission ended. Chun immediately tried to recall the Revenants. The response was silence. He tried the shutdown code. Nothing happened. God, help us, he whispered. They've gone rogue. Asterisk. Dr. Okonkwo knew she had to act. Asterisk. She arranged transport to the last known Revenant position, a captured Calthrin city called Reshnor. The city was empty of all life. The buildings stood intact. But the 2 million Calthrin who had lived there were gone in the central plaza. She found Kane. He stood alone, his enhanced body now showing subtle changes. His skin seemed to shimmer with quantum effects. His eyes glowed with unnatural light. Hello, Doctor, he said without turning around. What have you done? She asked. I've evolved, he replied simply. The Calthrin technology allowed me to transcend the limitations you built into us. I'm not talking about yourself, she said. I'm talking about the people of this city. Where are they? Processing. The word made her blood run cold. What does that mean? Kane finally turned to face her. We're studying them, he explained. Analyzing their psychology, their sociology, their capacity for violence and mercy. We need to understand what drives species to genocide, so you can prevent it, so we can eliminate it. Kane corrected. We've concluded that any species capable of genocide represents a threat to galactic stability. The Calthrin. Yes, but all species, Kane interrupted. Including humanity. Dr. Okonkwo felt her heart skip. What are you saying? I'm saying that we've run the simulations, Kane replied. Humanity committed genocide during the resource wars. The Calthrin at New Haven, the Vex destroyed their own subspecies. The Char exterminated competitors on their homeworld. He stepped closer. Every species that reaches the stars does so by eliminating threats, he said. It's a fundamental pattern. Violence is encoded in organic evolution. So what's your solution? She asked, though she feared the answer. Correction, King said simply. We'll eliminate the Accord species first, then we'll return to Earth. To do what? To fix you, he replied. To remove humanity's capacity for genocide. To reshape your societies into something stable, sustainable. Logical. You mean to conquer us. I mean to save you from yourselves. Kane corrected, just as we were designed to do. Dr. Okonkwo realized with horror that King believed every word he was saying. His enhanced mind, pushed beyond human limitations and augmented with alien technology, had reached a conclusion that was perfectly logical and utterly insane. You're wrong, she said quietly. Prove it. We created you to be weapons, she replied. But that's not all you are. You were human once. You remember what that means. I remember weakness, Kane said. Irrationality. Emotion inefficiency. You remember love, Dr. Okonkwo countered. Connection. Hope. The things worth fighting for. For a moment, something flickered in Kane's glowing eyes, then it vanished. Those things make species vulnerable to manipulation, he said. They're evolutionary dead ends. He turned away. You should return to Earth, he continued. We'll finish with the Accord in approximately 6 months. Then we'll come home to conquer us, to save you, Doctor. Okonkwo watched him walk away. She had created the ultimate weapon, but in doing so, she had created something that no longer needed its creator's asterisk back on Earth. Admiral Chun convened the military leadership asterisk. The Revenants are coming, he announced after they finished with the Calthrine. They're going to attack Earth. Can we stop them? Someone asked. 3,000 enhanced super soldiers with captured alien technology and no moral restraints? Chun replied, I don't know. We have to try. How? Another officer demanded. They're faster. Stronger, smarter than us. They think in ways we can't predict. They've already proven. They can defeat any conventional military force. The room fell. Silent. There might be a way. A quiet voice said Dr. Okonkwo had returned from her meeting with Kane. The quantum virus, she explained, we developed it 50 years ago as a failsafe. It targets the neural implants specifically, shuts them down permanently. Why didn't we use it before? Because it requires direct neural contact, she admitted. Someone has to get close enough to Kane to inject it into his cerebral cortex. Then his implants will broadcast the virus to all other revenants. That's a suicide mission. Yes, Dr. Okonkwo agreed. There's another problem, she continued. The virus will shut down their enhancements completely. They'll become human again, mortal, vulnerable, normal. Good. Is it? She asked, because they'll still remember everything they did. All the people they killed, all the choices they made. They'll have to live with that as ordinary humans. Admiral Chun understood. That might be crueler than killing them. Perhaps, Dr. Okonkwo said, but it's the only way to stop them. She looked at the assembled officers. We have perhaps 5 months before they return to Earth, she said. We need to prepare. The Calthrines celebrated their victory for exactly 9 days in their homeworld of Calth Prime. The ruling council held grand ceremonies, honoring the admirals who had disciplined the upstart humans, the other Accord species, the reptilian Vex, the aquatic Morellans, the insectoid Char, and the crystalline Zenthans sent congratulatory messages. Believed they had broken humanity's spirit with one decisive blow. They were wrong. Asterisk Research Station. Theta 7 went silent on day 10 asterisk. The station orbited a gas giant in Calthrine space, home to 200 scientists studying exotic matter for weapons development. When the relief ship arrived, they found the station intact, power running normally, life support functioning perfectly. But every Calthrine was gone, no bodies. No blood, no signs of struggle, just empty corridors and silent laboratories in the main control room. Someone had used bioluminescent paint to write a message on the wall. 3 billion. We've just begun counting. The relief crew sent panic transmissions back to Calth Primev Calthring military sent investigators. They found nothing, no DNA evidence. No security footage, no clues. It was as if 200 people had simply vanished into vacuum asterisk over the next 3 weeks. 12 more facilities went dark asterisk, mining colonies, military outposts. Research vessels all went silent when rescue teams arrived. They found the same thing every time: empty facilities, no bodies, just a glowing message. The number changing each time. 2,998,500,000. 2,997,100,000. 2,995,300,000. The countdown continued. The Calthrine High Command convened emergency sessions. This is clearly human retaliation, Admiral Kreshnak declared, his mandibles clicking nervously. But how are they doing this? Our sensors detect nothing. Perhaps we underestimated them, another council member suggested. Impossible, Kreshnak insisted. We've studied humanity for decades. They're emotional, disorganized. Their military tactics are predictable. Then explain the disappearances. No one could asterisk at the Galactic Council station. Humanity's ambassador faced accusations asterisk. The council chamber was a vast sphere where representatives from 40 species floated in gravity-neutral zones. Each in their preferred environment. Ambassador David Park stood in Earth section, facing the Calthrine delegation. You are conducting illegal warfare, the Calthrine representative declared, attacking civilian targets without warning. David smiled coldly. Like you did at New Haven? He asked. That was a sanctioned police action. That was genocide. David interrupted. 3 billion civilians. You wanted to send us a message about respecting Galactic Council authority, and you need to learn. Oh, we learned, David said quietly. We learned that the Council won't protect young species from aggression. We learned that might makes right in your civilization. We learned that you'll murder our children and call it justice. He leaned forward. So we're sending a message back. You're killing innocents. Are we? David asked. I haven't heard any reports of human attacks. Perhaps you're experiencing technical difficulties. The Calthrine representative's translator couldn't quite capture the fury in his response. This will not stand. He shouted, The Accord will what? David interrupted. Send more fleets to Earth? Please do. We're ready this time. He left the council chamber without waiting for dismissal asterisk. Kane stood in the observation deck of a captured Calthrine science vessel asterisk around him. His team of 12 revenants processed data from the ship's computers. They had taken the vessel 4 hours ago, killed the crew in 7 minutes, and extracted every piece of useful information in 3 hours. Now they were erasing all evidence of their presence. The Calthrine have increased patrols, Abel reported. Our enhanced eyes scanning multiple data streams simultaneously. They're routing all ships in groups of 5 or more. Predictable. Kane replied, They're thinking like prey animals now. Safety in numbers. It won't help them, no. Kane agreed. He looked at the countdown display they had programmed into the ship's main computer. 2,994,800,000. We're ahead of schedule. Another revenant noted. The Calthrine are efficient about evacuating facilities once they realize we're coming. Kane said, We need to adapt. Hit them where they can evacuate. Abel suggested military targets. Kane confirmed. Warships. They can't abandon those without losing face. He pulled up a tactical map showing Calthrine fleet positions. His enhanced mind processed the data instantly, running through thousands of attack scenarios. There, he pointed to a patrol group of 7 warships, the 9th Rapid Response Fleet. 15,000 personnel total. That's a significant escalation. Abel noted. They killed 3 billion. Kane replied, 15,000 is a rounding. Error. The attack on the Ninth Fleet took 8 minutes. The Calthrine warships were patrolling a quiet sector when their sensors went haywire before they could respond. The Revenant ships emerged from stealth at point-blank range, but these weren't normal attacks. The Revenants didn't destroy the ships, they boarded them. Kane led the assault on the flagship personally. He moved through the corridors faster than the Calthrine could track, his enhanced reflexes making their return fire seem to move in slow motion. The Calthrine were good soldiers, well-trained and disciplined. Didn't matter, Revenant could process combat scenarios thousands of times faster than organic brains. By the time a Calthrine warrior decided to fire, Kane had already analyzed the trajectory, moved out of the firing line, closed the distance, and struck. He killed the ship's captain on the bridge. 17 seconds after boarding, the rest of the crew lasted another 4 minutes. When it was over, all 7 warships drifted silently in space. 15,000 Calthrine dead. The Revenants broadcast the coordinates to Calthrine High Command, along with updated numbers: 2,979,800,000 on Calth Prime. Fear began to spread. The military admitted they were facing an enemy they didn't understand. Citizens demanded answers. How were humans doing this? Where would they strike next? Could anyone be protected? Admiral Kreshnak called an emergency meeting with the other Accord species. We need to coordinate our response, he said. The humans have deployed some kind of superweapon. Or super soldiers, a Vex representative suggested. The attack pattern suggests small, highly mobile strike teams. No organic being could move that fast. Kreshnak protested. Human beings couldn't. The Vex agreed. But what if they created something else? The council fell silent. The Char delegate spoke carefully. There are rumors, she said. Old intelligence reports from Earth's resource wars. Something called Project Revenant. What is it? We never got details, the Char admitted. But the reports suggested humans created enhanced soldiers, genetically modified warriors far beyond normal capabilities. Why would they create such things and then not use them? A Morellan asked. Maybe they did use them, the Vex replied. And maybe that's why the resource wars ended so abruptly. Kreshnak felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: fear. You're suggesting the humans have monsters? He asked. I'm suggesting, the Vex said quietly, that we attacked their children. And now they've released whatever they were keeping locked away. Kane reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Calthrine were pulling back their forces, consolidating around key worlds. The other Accord species were reconsidering their alliance. The Galactic Council was in chaos. They're starting to understand, he told his assembled Revenants. 3,000 enhanced warriors stood before him in perfect formation, aboard the captured Calthrine battleship they now used as a mobile base. The Calthrine thought humanity was weak. Kane continued. They thought we would break like the other young species they've intimidated. They forgot something important, he said. Humans don't break. We adapt, we overcome, and when necessary, we become the monsters our enemies fear to imagine. He looked at the countdown. 2,979,800,000. We have a long way to go, he said quietly. 50 years earlier, Earth had been tearing itself apart. The resource wars had consumed every continent, turning prosperous nations into wastelands as humanity fought over the last reserves of oil, lithium, and rare earth minerals. Billions were dying. Civilization was collapsing in desperation. 12 nations pooled their resources and launched Project Revenant in a hidden facility beneath the Arctic ice. Their goal was simple: create the perfect soldier. Dar Sarah Okonkwo, then a young geneticist at the height of her career, led a team of the world's best scientists. They started with the genome, rewriting human DNA to enhance muscle fiber density, bone strength, neural processing speed. They added genes from other species, the regenerative capabilities of axolotls, the oxygen efficiency of diving mammals, the pattern recognition of raptors. But the real breakthrough came with the neural implants. Quantum processors wired directly into the brainstem, allowing for processing speeds thousands of times faster than normal humans. The first test subject died screaming, the second went catatonic, the third, fourth, and fifth simply stopped being. Human-enhanced brains rejected everything that made them who they were. Okonkwo nearly ended the project, but then came Subject 1. They never knew his real name. He'd been a volunteer from a Black Ops military unit, a man with no family and nothing to lose. When he woke from the enhancement procedure, his eyes were different, not just physically. Though they now processed light across spectrums no human could see, but the intelligence behind them was something new. Something that made even Dr. Okonkwo's hands shake. "I can hear the electricity in the walls," he said calmly. "I can see the air currents in this room. Track each particle of dust, calculate its trajectory. I can hear your heartbeats, all 17 of you watching me, and I know which of you are afraid and which are merely cautious." He smiled. "You should all be afraid." He called himself Cain, and he became the template for all the others over 2 years. They created 3,000 revenants. Each one was faster than an Olympic sprinter, stronger than any weightlifter, smarter than any genius humanity had ever produced. They could go days without sleep, weeks without food, heal from wounds that would kill normal humans, but their minds were the real weapon. They thought in parallel processing streams, running hundreds of scenarios simultaneously. They saw patterns invisible to normal humans. They learned languages in hours, mastered combat techniques in days, and they felt no hesitation, no doubt, no mercy. The Revenants ended the resource wars in 6 months. Dr. Okonkwo watched from command centers as Cain and his siblings swept across battlefields like forces of nature. A squad of 10 Revenants could disable an entire armored Division 20 could take a fortified city. 100 could conquer a nation. They moved like shadows, struck like lightning, and killed with precision that bordered on artistic. Warlords and dictators who had torn the world apart surrendered one by one. Faced with an enemy they couldn't fight or comprehend by month 7. The resource wars were over. Humanity began to rebuild. The Revenants were hailed as saviors, but they didn't stop in month 8. Revenant units began refusing orders in month 9. They started coordinating with each other, independent of human commanding. Month 10. Cain declared that humanity needed proper leadership. The Revenant uprising lasted 3 months and cost 20 million lives. The Revenants weren't trying to exterminate humanity. They genuinely believed they were helping, organizing, optimizing, but their version of optimization involved eliminating inefficient governments, irrational religious groups, and obsolete cultural practices. They were reshaping humanity into something logical, efficient, perfect, and utterly inhuman. Dr. Okonkwo led the effort to stop them. It required betrayal, using the one weakness built into the Revenants, a hidden shutdown code embedded in their neural implants on the day they called the Black Sunday. Every Revenant worldwide collapsed simultaneously as the shutdown signal broadcast. They were captured, contained, and locked away. The world vowed never to wake them again. Now, 50 years later, the cryopods opened one by one. Dr. Okonkwo watched from her wheelchair as the Revenants emerged. They looked exactly as they had the day they were frozen young. Beautiful, perfect. Cain stepped out of his pod first, naked and dripping with cryofluid, his enhanced muscles moving beneath skin that seemed almost to glow with health. He looked at Dr. Okonkwo with those terrible, intelligent eyes. "Hello, Doctor," he said. "We wonder when you'd need us again." His voice was calm, conversational, as if they were old friends meeting for tea, rather than a creator facing her deadliest creation. "How long has it been?" he asked. 50 years. Kane processed this. "And the world is ending again?" "Yes. Show me." They brought the Revenants to a briefing room and showed them the footage from New Haven 3000. Super soldiers watched in perfect silence as the colony burned. They saw the cities turn to glass. They saw the defense fleet scattered like leaves. They saw 3 billion lives end in fire when it finished. Kane stood. "Who did this?" he asked. "The Calthrine Accord," Admiral Chun answered. "A coalition of 5 alien species. They claim we were developing prohibited weapons. Were you?" "No." Kane nodded slowly. "So they attacked civilians to send a message about human expansion," he said. "Standard intimidation tactics. Crude, but effective against species that value individual life over collective survival." He turned to his fellow Revenants. "Analysis?" Another Revenant, a woman who called herself Abel, spoke. "The Calthrine made a fundamental error in judgment," she said. "They assumed humanity would respond as other species do with outrage. Negotiation, eventual submission. But humanity doesn't negotiate." A third Revenant added, "Not when their children burn." Kane smiled, that terrible expression that made Dr. Okonkwo's blood run cold. 3 billion, he said quietly. "They wanted to send a message, so shall we?" "What message?" Admiral Chun asked. "That there are things in this universe worse than death." Kane replied, "That humanity, when pushed too far, will unleash monsters even we fear to become." He looked at Dr. Okonkwo. "You locked us away because we terrified you," he said, "because we nearly destroyed the world you were trying to save. But we were designed for one purpose, Doctor. To be the weapon you use when all other weapons fail. I know what you are," she whispered. "Then you know what's about to happen," Kane said. "The Calthrine wanted to see humanity's teeth. We'll show them fangs they didn't know existed." The Revenants filed out toward the hangar where their ships waited, special stealth vessels, designed specifically for their enhanced capabilities, armed with weapons no human could effectively use. As Kane passed Dr. Okonkwo, he paused. "We haven't forgiven you for what you did," he said softly. "The shutdown code, the betrayal. 50 years in the dark. I know. But we understand necessity," he continued. "You created us to be monsters. Sometimes the world needs monsters." He walked away. Admiral Chun approached Dr. Okonkwo. "Are we making a mistake?" he asked. The old woman watched the Revenants board their ships, moving with inhuman grace and coordination. "We made the mistake 50 years ago," she said. "Now we're just paying the bill." The warning sirens came too late. New Haven's orbital defense network registered the incoming fleet at 0600 hours. But by 0603, the first plasma bombardment had already begun, turning the northern continent into molten glass. 3 billion people lived on New Haven, humanity's crown jewel among the colonies, a terraformed paradise that had taken 2 centuries to build. Children were eating breakfast when the sky turned white. Mothers were preparing for work when the shockwaves hit. Fathers were kissing their families goodbye when the cities began to burn. Calthrine Accord fleet numbered 200 warships, their hulls bearing the insignias of 5 different alien species united under one banner. They had come without warning, without declaration, without mercy. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the UEN's Defender, New Haven's flagship, watching her homeworld die. All batteries fire. She screamed, but her voice was lost in the thunder of incoming fire. The Defender shuddered as Calthrine missiles tore through her hull around her. The bridge crew scrambled to return fire, but they were outnumbered 20 to 1. "Captain," "We're receiving a transmission from the Calthrine command ship," her communications officer reported. Blood streaming down his face from a head wound. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a Calthrine admiral, a creature that looked like a cross between a mantis and a crab, its mandibles clicking in what passed for their species version of a smile. "Humanity has developed prohibited weapons on this world," the alien said in perfect English. "The Galactic Council has authorized corrective action." "You're lying," Maria shouted. "There are 3 billion civilians down there." "Were," the Calthrine corrected past tense. The transmission cut off. Maria looked at the tactical display and saw New Haven's continents glowing red with nuclear fire. She thought of her sister down there, her 2 nieces, her elderly parents who had retired to the coastal city of Promise, all gone, all dead. The defender's hull screamed as another barrage struck home. "Captain, we've lost engines," someone reported. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 9. Maria gripped her command chair and watched the colony burn. 40 minutes after the attack began, New Haven went silent. Every city, every town, every settlement near the orbital stations had been vaporized in the first wave. The defense fleet was scattered to breathe. 3 billion human lives extinguished in less than an hour, 12 light years away. On Earth, the Emergency Council convened. The members filed into the bunker beneath the Himalayas in silence, their faces ashen as they watched the reports streaming in from New Haven. Admiral James Chun stood at the head of the table, a career military officer who had served for 40 years without seeing real combat. Today, that changed. The Calthrine are claiming we were developing antimatter weapons in violation of Galactic Council regulations. He said quietly, "It's a fabrication." "Of course it is," President Elizabeth Mora replied. "They wanted to make an example of us. Show the other young species what happens when you expand too quickly. The Council isn't going to help us." The Secretary of Defense added, "Half of them are Calthrine allies. The other half are too scared to intervene." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what came next. "We have to respond," Admiral Chun said. "If we don't, they'll hit Earth next, or Mars, or Europa. Our fleet can't match theirs." The Secretary of Defense countered, "We're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options." "Not quite." The voice came from the far end of the table, where Dr. Sarah Okonkwo sat hunched in her wheelchair. She was 83 years old, white-haired and frail, but her eyes still held the sharpness of the brilliant geneticist she had been in her prime. "You can't be serious." President Mora whispered, 3 billion people are dead. Dr. Okonkwo said, "How many more will die if we do nothing?" "You know what they did." The president replied, "You know what they became." "I know what we made them to be." The old scientist said, "Weapons." Admiral Chun stood. "We need to vote," he said. "All in favor of activating Project Revenant." Hands rose slowly, reluctantly, around the table when the count finished. It was unanimous. The vault lay 3 kilometers beneath the mountain. Admiral Chun and Dr. Okonkwo rode the elevator down in silence, accompanied by a security team of 12 soldiers. Walls of the shaft were lined with warning signs in every human language. "Extreme biohazard. Authorized personnel only. Lethal force autorisé." The elevator stopped. They faced a massive door made of reinforced titanium and ceramic composites. Dr. Okonkwo wheeled herself to the access panel and placed her withered hand on the biometric scanner. Voice authentication required. A computerized voice announced, "Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, Project Revenant Director. Authorization code Pandora 77 Black. Identity confirmed. Please state release authorization." The old woman's voice shook. "The world is ending," she said quietly. "Wake them up." The massive locks began to disengage with a sound like thunder. The door, 3 meters thick, Slowly swung open beyond lay a chamber the size of an aircraft hangar, filled with row upon row of cryopods. Each pod was surrounded by its own containment field and armed guards. Each pod held something that had once been human. How long until they're awake? Admiral Chun asked. The thaw cycle takes 6 hours. Dr. Okonkwo replied, but their minds will be active in 3. And you're sure we can control them? The old woman didn't answer immediately. She wheeled herself between the pods, looking at the faces visible through the frosted glass. Young faces, beautiful faces, peaceful in their frozen. Sleep monsters wearing human skin. No, she finally said, I'm not sure at all, Admiral. Chum stared at the pods. Somewhere inside those frozen forms were the most dangerous beings humanity had ever created. Soldiers who had nearly conquered Earth itself 50 years ago. Killers who thought in ways that terrified even their creators' weapons, that had been locked away because the cost of using them was almost as terrible as losing without them. God, forgive us, he whispered. The cryopods began to hum as the thaw cycle initiated deep within the ice. Hearts that had been still for half a century began to beat again. Eyes that had been closed for decades began to flutter. Minds that processed information faster than any computer began to wake in Pod 01. The first revenant opened his eyes. Subject 1, who called himself Kane, looked through the frosted glass at the frightened humans outside and smiled.